on a blue one.
DDG episode 236. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
I messed it up, Dave.
I can never tell when you're going to stop talking. Like you pause. Like, you know, most of the time when people pause, that means they've stopped their sentence. You pause either to breathe or to process, and then you speak again.
It's processing.
Okay.
It's like I can say something stupid right now. I can. There's another joke that can be made, something dumb, but no, I fucked up this. It was probably the first one I messed up in forever. But yeah. We're also both we got weird energy tonight, or lack thereof. So I'm over here just thinking a mile a minute.
All right. So with that in mind, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that release Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time on podcast services. You can also watch us live on Twitch pretty much whenever we feel like recording, when it works for us. So twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming and youtube.com/Digital Days Gaming, as well as you can subscribe to the RSS feed on YouTube and get an audio only version via YouTube, or you can look at the YouTube VODs and watch us, as well as Twitch VODs that are only up there for a little bit, or you can always watch us live on Twitch or YouTube, like I just mentioned. All of that is linked in the show notes, as well as access to our Discord and Facebook group and Patreon and PayPal and all of those things if you want to choose to support us, or at least to join the community. If you're able to leave a review for the podcast, that would be super helpful. Even if you've been listening to us since we started, and more than likely you changed podcast services, or you didn't remember to sign into your podcast service correctly and you made a new account, please consider leaving a review. See if it'll let you leave a review. Yeah. Just even see if it'll let you leave a review. If it does, leave one. If it doesn't, you left one. Thank you. So, but just that kind of helps move it up the charts if people are searching. I actually don't know in 2024 if people are searching for podcasts anymore randomly, or if it's just all word of mouth and recommendations. But I'm pretty sure
it's just word of mouth now. So if you want to tell your coworkers that you know a podcast that's pretty consistent, except for October, like, hey, we're here.
There was reasons for that.
There were reasons, yes.
All right.
Does the average person know? Not so they listen to the podcast.
Right. So, all right. With that in mind, we're going to jump into the news.
Yeah, I just grabbed my Coke's stress ball because I don't have a Coke right now. All right. So pretty light news week, but I think the news that did come up was pretty substantial, especially given the fact that we're about to go to Thanksgiving week, and in the video game industry, Thanksgiving weeks means there will be no news, and then there'll be a week of news, and then the video game industry goes into slumber for like 3-4 weeks. So the first story is Final Fantasy XIV Mobile officially announced by Square Enix. So Square put out a trailer for Final Fantasy XIV Mobile. The new game is being developed in partnership with Tencent, I believe. I got to verify that again. But this partnership will be bringing Final Fantasy XIV to mobile, though they are very vague from that trailer on what does this mean for the full Final Fantasy XIV game, the OG Final Fantasy XIV game, in terms of does it involve your character? Does it involve like the current story? Is it in the current timeline? It's very vague in the trailer. The trailer mostly focused on like, hey, here's like some NPCs, here's a bunch of created characters, here's some battles and dungeons you can do, and then also here's just a bunch of mini games. So that seems to be the big push for this. The vagueness on whether you're even using your current character that you've had for almost 10 years now
means it's a no.
Worrisome.
it sounds like it's a no.
So this is one of those things where like I know enough people that play Final Fantasy XIV, and I think it's worth bringing up because a lot of reports have come out this year that like this is the only thing going well for Square. So the fact that they're jumping into the mobile market seems very important for Square Enix.
Yeah. So the main question becomes with this, is this more Tencent or is this more Square Enix? If it's more Tencent, there's no chance for any connectivity because Tencent is literally going after a different customer than what Square Enix would go after. This is very similar in parallel comparison to the NetEase Destiny Rising mobile game with Destiny. NetEase, we always thought this was like some partnership for Bungie to make a mobile game. That wasn't the case. Like as we found out as this started to come out, NetEase went to Bungie and said, "Hey, we want your assets. That's all we want. We want to do." Like they did their own timeline. They used the characters, but nothing is lining up with what within the events of the Destiny game in the last 10 years at all. So that's why I say, so if this is like 75% Square, 25% Tencent, there might be some chance of some crossover, some story continuation, some running parallel with it. But if this is the mobile market trying to capitalize on big names, to continue to grow the mobile market, which is growing, whether people believe it or don't believe it, it's still the number one gaming platform on the phone. But I think that they're looking, just like the console gaming industry, they're looking for growth anywhere they can get it. And that growth might come from marquee brands, marquee IPs in name alone.
Yeah. I completely agree. Like, I think what could be telling with this is Square Enix can't really take any more losses right now. They can't take any more L's. So it makes sense that this could potentially be like a 70% Tencent game.
Which means Tencent's just writing them a check. They're just licensing Final Fantasy words and characters and worlds and cities and stuff.
It makes it more likely to be a win-win.
Yeah.
If it fails or is successful. If it's successful, fantastic. Square Enix is like, cool, we got to win. If it fails, it's like, hey, they already cut the check. It already cleared.
Yep.
We can move on, and it won't put any sort of stink.
Yeah, it won't affect 14. It won't affect 15. It won't affect 16. It won't affect Rebirth. It won't affect anything. It'll be like, oh, remember when that mobile game came out and it was trash? Like, and then it'll just move on.
Yeah, so this is going to become, like, I think it kind of shows you that Square is just looking for growth wherever they can get it, and they're willing to take, like they're mitigating their risk a little bit in terms of just going mobile and having Tencent handle it, because they can't sully the name of Final Fantasy 14. And 14 just had its last expansion come out, which had mixed reviews because it's setting up the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like, they have to rebuild their storyline because they finished it with Endwalker. So they're in a weird spot where their numbers are going to hit, like, probably some lows over the next couple years, and then they're just going to have to hope that they can build up this, maybe get some people from the mobile side to be like, actually, you know what, I will try Final Fantasy 14.
That's where the market bouncing back and forth is where it's interesting. Like, are you going after a console gamer to try to get them to play mobile games? Are you going after the mobile gamer to try to get them to play console games? And the answer is yes. So, and you're starting to see it. I mean, we had this years ago in a much, much smaller scale. The thing that automatically comes to the front of my mind when I think about this is, like, do you remember that match 3 game from Knack that actually, like, carried over into the game? Like, I know you probably didn't play very much.
I didn't play it, but I remember.
But there was things like, you can't, like, we see some things, like, we've seen some crossovers with other games before. Like, again, I hate to, like, reference everything back to Destiny, but a lot of it had to do with the Activision and the merger. Like, you pre-order the Call of Duty beta, you got a Destiny shader. You pre-order the Destiny beta, you got a Call of Duty skin. Like, there was all of these things to try to get people to even just remotely dip their toe just for a second into something to see if there's a potential to be there. Tencent will nickel and dime the shit out of you in a mobile game. Square Enix won't. Yeah. I mean, Square Enix is not known for massive microtransactions. The stuff that they tried to do, i.e. Avengers, didn't do very well.
And 14 hasn't really been very predatory, like, at all. Like, they have a paid store you can buy stuff in, but for the most part, it's never been anything like that leads to FOMO.
Yeah, that's like a standard, like, auction house, though. Like, I mean, like, where you can, not an auction house necessarily, but the stuff that's in there is what cosmetics are supposed to be in games. It's just the over the top stuff. There's like so much. I can put a Blanca mask on my Destiny character after this week from Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that being a paid transaction, because that is over the top versus something that's really cool, Destiny inspired, that I think looks awesome. And it's like, oh, that armor costs $20. Like, what? That looks like it came from the game. To put a Blanca mask on, or a Doki Doki Universe armor set, like, I'm okay with paying for that in that extent. Or we've always talked about it, like, I think a lot of people would pay $15 or $20 for Snoop Dogg to be the voice of Call of Duty multiplayer.
Yeah, and they've done it, and people paid it, and people are happy with it.
I mean, Eminem's in Fortnite.
Oh god, yeah, everyone's in Fortnite, to be honest. But yeah, no, this is going to be very, like, fascinating to watch, like, how this mobile game gets rolled out. It is one of those things where they are probably more interested in bringing mobile people over to the full version, because they mentioned nothing about bringing your Warrior of Light to this game. Because if you wanted to get the console players, the PC players on mobile, you would have been in the trailer.
Transfer your player. Move them over.
Exactly.
Bring your guy. Take your character to the mobile timeline, literally and figuratively, to the alternate timeline, and get some cool gear and bring them back through the portal and put them back in the game. Like they could have done something like that. However, I also don't think that, for whatever reason, Fortnite aside, because of it being Fortnite, there is, and I mean, you might know a little better than I would. There is it appears to be very, very hard to connect mobile and console games. Very, very hard. And from a RAM issue or something, whether it's RAM or it's memory or whatever it is, like, it just seems like it's very, very hard.
There are some games that have done it, but it's never. It isn't popular because we'd see more. You would see Call of Duty Mobile mixed in with regular Call of Duty or something like that.
But I mean, we see the stuff.
We see it with Fortnite,
right? Well, you see the stuff you unlock in Warzone being able to be used in Black Ops 6, or stuff that that you unlock in Black Ops 6 being able to use in Warzone. But to your point, Call of Duty Mobile's fun, for a quick pick up and play. But there's no, let me grind for this really cool skin that nobody else will have because they don't grind it on mobile, and I'll use it in Black Ops 6. There's not that connectivity.
Yeah, and even in the pace of Call of Duty moves, mobile wouldn't work with it. And when you talk about like Final Fantasy 14, some of those raids require precise timing, and they're very visual that you would lose. There's a lot of visual tricks that you would lose on like a smaller screen. Yeah. So like that connectivity wouldn't fully be there just because it would probably break a few things. And
it would have to only be cosmetic. Like, if anything, it's just only cosmetic stuff.
Yeah. They would have to figure out a way to like integrate too. And this could be one of those things where it's like, hey, we're not going to integrate them yet. If things go well, then hey, maybe we'll do it. Maybe they could do something with retainers or something like that. Because retainers, you can have retainers that go out and fetch stuff for you. It's like
mounts,
maybe
like they've done. I don't think 14 has mounts, but similar stuff.
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They could do some sort of integration like that, of just like, hey, play as your retainer, play as your mount, something they could do to integrate it, but not fully do that. We'll see where that goes when it comes out. It'll probably be one of those scenes where it's going to hit like China first for several months and years before it comes over.
The next thing that could be potentially cool, though, is I think we might see some more Monster Hunter stuff. If this starts to get, I know they're two different companies, Square Enix and Capcom, but if this gets any kind of traction at all, I could totally see something Monster Hunter.
Yeah, no, I mean, Monster Hunter has been in 14, if that helps.
Okay. Well, I was just saying more or less like Capcom and Square kind of try to go toe-to-toe on certain things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying if Square can get any traction through Tencent or through these companies on any kind of mobile platform, the next thing that I could see potentially going into mobile currently would be like Monster Hunter franchise. Yeah,
I can see that. If especially Monster Hunter was started as like a portable franchise on a PSP, so we can end up getting that. All right, Dave, it's time to talk about the Keighley's, the Game Awards, the only award show that matters. Let's be honest.
No award show matters.
It's the only one that gets trailers, Dave. It's the only one that gets trailers.
Yeah, but yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only thing that matters for, in my opinion. But okay.
Yeah, trailers and live performances from bands that you really didn't want to listen to. So the Game Awards revealed their nominees. As with every year, it's controversial, with quotations on controversial. It's this video game, so it's not super serious, but this has been a weird year for games. I would say, like, it's definitely doesn't feel like this is like a gigantic year for gaming. Either post-pandemic development stuff's changing. Some studios just released a bunch of stuff last year. We have GTA 6 looming next year. This is probably one of the like more different years, especially when you look at the nominees for the Game Awards Game of the Year. And those nominees are as follows: Astrobot, Baltro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadows of Endertree, which is a DLC, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor Refantasio are our nominees for this year's awards. And it is a pretty diverse list of games.
Is it bad that I have no idea what two of these are?
I'm assuming it's Baltro, which is a Devolver Digital indie game that has taken like the world by storm. Okay. And then Refantasmo is from. Those are the two.
Yes.
The two. Yeah, I knew.
Is Baltro been out like since Labor Day or before Labor Day?
Before Labor Day. So it came out, I want to say spring, summer. It was super huge that they immediately released like a mobile version of it.
Okay.
Because it's so popular. It's like a card game where you're like
oh, that's why I don't care. Okay.
Yeah. but it's like poker, but you're like cheating.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
It's fun games. I respect games. Like to each their own.
Yeah, and a Metaphor is an RPG from the creators of Persona.
Okay.
So makes sense when you put it in perspective there. It's like, yeah, that's going to get nominated.
Gotcha. Okay.
Quality work usually. But yeah, so the big controversy with this is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a remake of a game, and Elden Ring Shadow of Ender Tree is a DLC. So people are freaking out, and there's a lot of people saying it's Geoff Keighley biasy because he tends to always love FromSoftware, and
it's his show.
Kojima. Exactly.
He writes the rules. He pays the bill. He writes the check, and he can write the rules. So first of all, with that being like, I half joking, half serious, the Keighley's award, but yeah, like I get it. Like, so I'm of two minds of this. I understand what people are saying of like, I want Game of the Year to be a new game. Okay, like I get it. First of all, Final Fantasy VII is not a remake; it's a reimagining. Like that's ridiculous. Like this is a new game, so like take that off the list. If you don't think that this is a new game, I'm sorry. Like they literally like took like a chapter in the game, in the original game, and made it into they took I don't even know what you would want to call it, an act in Final Fantasy VII.
They reimagined, they expanded,
and then
they
took it and
remade.
made it huge. So then, and then also like nowadays, like, what do you want? Like, I guess like ultimately, like, what's better, what's worse? Elden Ring 2, Shadows of Entry, or Elden Ring, Shadows of Entry? Like, if we're gonna let, air quotes, I'm not criticizing this when I say this. If we're going to allow games like Journey back in the day and Hades recently to win Game of the Year when they're going up against other things, like I don't remember, I think Hades might have been going up against God of War or Spider-Man or something like that. So Journey was like a 2-hour game. It was phenomenal, fantastic. This Elden Ring's, the quality that you're getting in that is another game, longer than some games that have won Game of the Year before. I understand it's attached to Elden Ring. At this point in time, my personal opinion is if you buy Elden Ring Shadows of Entry, you should just get Elden Ring for free. As long as it's been out for. I think that would, but I don't necessarily have a problem with this because there's some really cool additions and expansions and builds on the games as a service that they're doing, because I think it's safer to attach it to something that's already out. Otherwise, you get Concord.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like this is acceptable, especially when we're talking about this expansion, because it was a huge expansion. It felt like it was pretty standalone, especially if you remember, Dave, when people were playing it, there was a big complaint of just like, I'm getting my ass kicked again in this thing, because it wasn't just like a flat continuation of like, hey, you were OP by the end of Elden Ring, so that means you're OP for this expansion. No, they like kind of increase the difficulty, reset some things to where it made it feel like, hey, you're working towards new goals. So I don't have a problem with that. I agreed with Final Fantasy Rebirth. Like, it's a completely different thing. I have no problem with it. And also, I would just like to point out, what would take their place, honestly? Because like this hasn't been like the most amazing year. I saw some arguments for Helldivers 2, which maybe if they didn't do the stuff they did to that game, that kind of,
it doesn't matter. It was just the flavor of it was Fall Guys for 3 months. Like
but that's part of the reason why it fell off quickly is because they kind of alienated their PC base. And then I saw some stuff for Stellar Blade, and it's just like that. It was okay, but like outside of some people that are upset about it, I don't really know too many people that are just like talking about like how great their Stellar Blade experience was. Like, I honestly don't think this was a great year for gaming in general. Not to take anything away from these games that were nominated,
right?
I'm happy Astrobot's on there.
Astrobot's kind of run away with this.
I feel like
No, I think people are going to be mad enough that the Elden Ring DLC is on there. They're going to vote for Astrobot. Like, there's people that probably would never vote on Game of the Year. They now are going to purposely vote against Elden Ring because they don't want. I legitimately think they don't want a DLC or what they figure is a DLC to win. Circling back to kind of like, I had a little bit of a discussion on Twitter. I've had some discussions with some the colleagues at work. Why is it okay for it to be called Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Miles Morales when it's the same map, the same areas, similar combat, and people are like, oh, this is great. But then you release a DLC that does this, and people are like, oh, like it can't win any awards.
It was new areas and
I know.
stuff like that too.
But, but the same thing, Zelda Breath of the Wild and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it's essentially, it is the same map. Tears of the Kingdom has some stuff in the sky and some stuff underground. Like in theory, that could have been an expansion. Now, Nintendo doesn't do that, so they just release another game, and people love it and praise it and think it's great because it's a separate thing that you don't have to buy Breath of the Wild if you wanted to buy Tears of the Kingdom. So if they made this standalone, would that make it okay? Like, Lost Legacy was supposed to be just Uncharted 4 DLC, and then it turned into its own game. Does that make it a Game of the Year contender that year? Why or why not? It was originally pitched as DLC. Like, so
yeah, it's one of those things where, like, they're never going to win with these nominees. These discussions pop up every year. Like, it
they
does
do this
seem
shit
like
on purpose, man. They're controlling the internet this week.
Yeah,
it's a conversation.
Well, they were until our next news story. But it's one of those things where they do have a format. They'll have like here's our one indie game that's going to be nominated.
Yep.
Which is fine. That works. And then this year, I think they just kind of, there was no big marquee thing outside of Rebirth, and they were probably hoping
it's college football
for something. Well,
it's college football. No, not Game of the Year. The way you just explained this is that, and I know you don't pay as much attention to college football as I do, but there's Power 4 conferences. Okay, there's 4 major conferences, and then there's like a non-Power 4 conference. So like the indies. Like, I'm just like, I just realized, like, you're gonna have your potential blue bloods, the FromSoftwares and the the Sony game, and
hey, Dave, what if I told you college football wasn't nominated for best sports game?
That's fascinating to me because did Madden get it?
No, so it's F1 Racing, EA Sports FC Football Club, NBA 2K25, which no one's ever fucking happy with.
Okay.
Top Spin 2K25 and WWE 2K24. That
just means that the people that are playing college football aren't paying attention to this website.
Yeah, and just so people are aware, the people that nominate this game, it's a whole panel of like journalists, that do make these nominations. So it's one of those things.
NPD #1 in August, wasn't it?
Yes, and it was also
like September as well,
higher than NBA 2K and WWE 2K. This is one of those things where it frustrates me. Like, if the conspiracies are right, of like Keighley like puts out the ballots for people and then he does what he wants to do anyways, regardless of what the ballots say, he should have interfered. Like, people are like, oh, he interfered to get the Elden Ring nominated. And it's just like, he should have interfered with college.
Well, and I wasn't even my reference to college football was real life college football, not the video game. But I know. But I mean, it
immediately
the first time the game's been out in 10 years and it doesn't compete for an award. Come on.
And it was significantly great.
Yeah, better. It's better than Madden.
It's one of those things where it just shows you for some of these categories, which is why I don't think people should take it too serious. It's like, so Keighley, he has I forget how many media members it is, but it's like a couple dozen. And he'll send out like, hey, give me your nominees. And then that's how we get our nominees for fans to vote on. And it just shows you that some categories, these people are just picking whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's a rule set that is basically like, you have to pick, even if you don't have an opinion on this stuff.
Or he sent the cards out and pick 6 and he got 2 back from everybody.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I guess these are our nominees.
Yeah.
So stuff like that just shows you maybe you don't take the game awards that serious, because there are gaps like that pop up.
It's all about if your choice wins Game of the Year, you're pounding your chest. If your choice doesn't win Game of the Year, you're crying. So there's no in between. And for me, I'm with you, man. tell me when the Game Awards is over, so I can go to my YouTube channel. I can go to my YouTube subscription and or sub feed or whatever, and see all the cool trailers that came out. Hopefully, that come out, because I'm with you, man. I'm not going to sit there through potentially rushed speeches, too long of an award show,
weird sketches.
Yeah, music and entertainment that I probably don't care about. And then in this situation, 2/3. There's 2 games on here. There's one game on here I want to play, and then another game on here that I would consider playing. Astrobot and Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Based on what I know about,
I think Balatro you could get into.
Okay.
Especially it's a mobile game now too, so it's
okay. But I don't really feel like getting my ass kicked in Black Myth.
And I feel like people were excited. It sold really well, and I think it's one of those instances where it sold so much that they couldn't deny its nomination, but it's still one of those things where no, but that's the weird stuff with because it's a sports game. No one cares apparently, except for the 20 million people that bought it. Yeah,
and then those people aren't watching the VGAs.
Yeah, no, they'll get told by people like me and you the next day if a big announcement happens. Like, oh, they did Grand Theft Auto trailer dropped yesterday. Yeah, I have a feeling Elden Ring's gonna win this one because it just kind of sticks out. Depending on because I know it's not full like fan voted for the Game of the Year award. There is like some sort of tilt towards reviewers. So I would say if it's like 70% journalists, 30% popular vote, then I would probably say like Elden Ring's gonna win. But if it's like 50-50 or more swayed towards popular vote, Astrobot will probably walk away with this. And I would be happy with that because like I'm weird when it comes to the Game Awards where I'm happy for the winners, but I'm not really upset about the losers.
I just don't want this to ultimately. I don't want this to turn into like the Oscars or the Golden Globes, where like I sometimes like, oh, somebody's like, oh, did you watch the Oscars? I'm like, Oscars are different. Golden Globes, there's something else. But like oh, the movie of the year. I'm like, I've never heard of that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
like I've never heard of that. Like
I would prefer that over what it actually has turned into, where it's just the election.
Right.
Every year of people just being super fucking upset and foaming at the mouth because like their game didn't get nominated as if they worked on it.
Back to our predecessor system of ballot stuffing for our previous Game of the Years.
Where people would tell us like, I voted 45 times. It's like, cool, I guess.
Yeah, congratulations. You set up a macro back in 2014. That sort of stuff is just, people are very passionate. People are very passionate about the things they purchase. Yep.
All right, Dave, here's the real reason we even would want to record. Speaking of being
attached to plastic stuff.
Okay, so routers, I always forget how to say it, routers, put out a report this week, a couple days ago, yesterday maybe, that Sony is currently in talks to acquire Kadokawa, the anime/manga publisher that also has a gaming division that includes Spike Churnsoft, Acquire, and FromSoftware. So Kadokawa is a major player in the anime manga game. They own several like popular IPs. And this is key because Sony has been eating up manga and specifically anime companies, publishers, creators. Sony currently owns Funimation and Crunchyroll, which they combined into this one big thing. And this acquisition would just virtually give Sony a monopoly in that market. So that I feel like is the big thing here. But since we're a video game podcast, the FromSoftware thing is obviously the thing that everyone's drawn to. So Kadokawa owns FromSoftware. They actually own 69% of the company FromSoftware. So the rest of that percentage is owned by Tencent and Sony. So Sony already owns about 15% of FromSoftware. So this would be them acquiring that other 69% in this deal that is most likely about anime and manga more than it is about FromSoftware. Kadokawa did confirm today that they did get an offer sheet from Sony, which makes it seem like this is a real thing that's happening because offer sheets just don't get randomly thrown their way. There's a whole conversation that happens before an offer sheet is even entertained. Dave.
Yeah.
Good go.
First keyword is Sony, not PlayStation.
Yes.
Like in my opinion, like Sony is, and that's where it piggybacks into this anime and trying to figure that out. I think that the From Software thing is just like a little is like sprinkles on top of your everything else that you're getting.
Yeah.
I don't think like if it did anything, it would possibly stop it from going to Xbox, possibly because it's going to PC still. If this deal goes through, this is going to PC. I don't think it would stop it from going to Xbox at this point in time either, because I think that would be part of the terms, and I also think it would be part of the terms. You would have to see some give and take here, because you want to talk about the Trade Commission getting in the way. Trade Commission getting in the way of this.
So 2 Japanese companies.
Right.
It wouldn't matter. I don't know what the rules are in Japan.
Which, again, is focusing on the word Sony over PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because I understand that PlayStation is a Japanese company, but a lot of people associate PlayStation with an American company, in North America.
The entertainment space, like Sony Pictures, is mostly considered an American.
Correct.
Yeah, but this is one of those things where unless Japan has a problem with Sony having a monopoly, there probably would be nothing that could be done to stop this other than the Japanese government not being comfortable with a monopoly in the anime manga game.
Yeah. So, this is interesting. It's getting the gaming connection because everybody's like, oh, they're gonna make Bloodborne remastered. That's all I saw.
Yeah, which they can do at any time, as they proved with Demon Souls.
Correct.
That has nothing to do with FromSoftware.
Yep. So it'll be interesting. I think at this point in time, if there's an offer being made, like it's real. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's some fire there for sure. And again, I just think that the video game thing is a throw in, and I honestly, personally, don't think that you would really see any difference. From Software has always, like, I don't know how long Sony's owned the percentage that they've owned, but
a couple years
back in the day, like From Software signed that deal, like because they made Sekiro too, didn't they?
Yes, with Activision as a publisher. Yeah.
Correct. So and I'm assuming that Sony probably owned some of them at that point in time. So what it depends.
Maybe shortly after that, actually.
Okay. So what the contract says, what they say they're allowed to do, what they, it'll be all in there. I don't know what is, like, I guess ultimately what is Kadokawa showing Sony that is making them want this, because ultimately right now when Sony or PlayStation opens up their wallet, doesn't usually result in good things in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I would imagine this is one of those things where this is 90% about the anime and manga publishing arm, the anime and manga producing arm of this company, because that's where this company makes a majority of their money.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those things where someone who's in charge of acquisitions at Sony pitched to whoever's in charge at Sony and was just like, hey, we can get Kadokawa. Also, they own FromSoftware, Spike Churnsoft, and Acquire Studios, which would probably feel like a bonus, especially because they're already 14 or 15% into FromSoftware at this point. And those 3 studios would kind of do wonders for PlayStation's portfolio, because those studios produce the stuff that Sony used to produce before Sony got bloated and then kind of strayed away from what people loved about PlayStation. So the video game stuff, I feel like ultimately is a bonus for them, but it would do wonders for their portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those games that come from Spike Churnsoft and Acquire tend to by default be PlayStation exclusive games anyways.
Right.
So it would
partially
just be,
because of the market that they're being marketed to. Xbox
Yes.
doesn't do well there. Xbox doesn't sell for nothing in Japan and China. Like,
Yeah.
it's awful. Like, they might as well not even just go there. Like, Microsoft should just focus on North America and Europe.
Yeah, and this would be one of those things where, like, From Software, will still make PC games. There's a chance that if they want to fight, kind of like Bungie did, of like, we would still like to release on Xbox, they could ask that, because From Software,
they still
I think,
self-publish. That's a lot of where it comes from. Of like, we'll deal. Yeah, you might be able to bankroll us, but we're going to, within our budget and our means, we're going to publish our games ourselves, which is what
as long as we don't fuck up, like Bungie,
right?
And then there's like some sort of like
takeover
solution
clause.
there. Yeah, takeover clause. So this could be big. I think this would be great for Sony. This would be great for PlayStation, and I also think this would be bad for the anime manga
I agree.
community.
Even though I don't really get into it at all, but putting this all on one. on one platform or one app or one streaming service or whatever the hell you want to call it just eliminates the competition. And in a world where like we're hearing about, you'll be able to answer this better than I will because I'm just seeing it. The Netflix anime season 2 Arcane, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I got it right. Netflix came out and it's like it's not going to continue because it's just costing too much money. Like,
yeah, and they're especially Netflix is having a problem where they just don't have the resources built up to support anime. Yeah. And there's been a lot of times where like Blue Eyed Samurai was one that released last year, and they're like, oh, we're like 3 years away from season 2, and it's just like, oh, okay, you can't handle this. Sony also has a bad track record. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but Sony owned Funimation, they acquired Crunchyroll, and then they combined the two services. And when they combined the two services, they basically told people that had Funimation anime that they owned that would be disappearing once the two services merged. Yeah. Like, so if you bought like digital copies of certain animes, they were like, hey, once this all becomes Crunchyroll, you lose ownership of that stuff that you bought. And that caused a lot of controversy within that scene.
The best example of that is like, oh, Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard. So everything that was on the Blizzard store, you are now being moved over to the Microsoft store, but nothing from your Blizzard store is coming.
Yeah. I literally, one of my friends, when he heard about that, he messaged me. He's like, we got to start hunting for anime DVDs. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I got to now own my anime because of this bullshit that happened. It basically made him realize like, oh shit, physical media might be the only way to own some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So Sony has not had the best track record when it comes to acquiring stuff in the anime scene. The video game scene, I feel like FromSoftware would be huge for them. I think they would let FromSoftware do whatever the fuck they want because FromSoftware kind of earned that. They're basically...
Yeah, but they're also 10% of the reason why they made the purchase, so they're going to get 10% of their attention.
Yeah, which would be perfect for FromSoftware because when PlayStation micromanages, things go wrong. And I think FromSoftware is a big enough... Yeah. I would say FromSoftware is like the Japanese Naughty Dog, maybe even bigger than Naughty Dog. So
I think if this merger or this purchase goes through, you're not going to see Herman Holst release a statement about it. Oh, we're so happy to have FromSoftware as part of the PlayStation Studios. Like, that's not going to be a thing. Like, I think
we'll get the Bungie thing where they're like, here's the circle of PlayStation Studios, and then FromSoftware is outside of that circle. Like, they'll brag about it because you have to. Yeah. You have to brag that you acquired them. But there will probably be a messaging because PlayStation has to do that messaging now of like, they will be autonomous. We are not touching them. They're going to produce what we want.
People's paychecks will have a different person a different company and name on there that pays them, but nothing. The logo will be the same.
And this might sound crazy though. I'm more excited about like if this goes through, even though I'm worried about like my anime friends. Spike Churnsoft and Acquire make some really quality stuff, and I would kind of be happy to see that under the PlayStation umbrella because it could lead to PlayStation actually having JRPGs again. It could lead them to having visual novel games, some of the weird quirky stuff that they used to produce that they no longer produce. Like, yes, it would just be the same games with the PlayStation logo over it, but it could be one of those things where they see that being successful and then they go to their other studios and say, maybe we should let you creative people be creative as opposed to being like, hey, you're going to make a
you're kind of talking more down the rounds of like Danganronpa and stuff like that, right?
Yes, that is a Spike Churnsoft game. So.
Okay. See? Cool, I got it.
Yeah, got it. There's a lot of stuff. Let me pull up.
You really like that franchise series, by the way. I remember.
It's so weird and great. Let me pull up Kadokawa. Just their divisions and like what they own. Kadokawa Corporation. This is Vamp.
No, but I meant like so merging like Crunchyroll is a Sony owned thing now too. So like putting all that anime into one basket, I'm with you, is dangerous.
Yeah, it's super dangerous because stuff can go away. You can end up in a situation where like Warner Brothers owns Max and Discover, and then at a certain point they're like, we need to start taking stuff away, and it's like, oh, cool. But yeah, so Churnsoft or Spike Churnsoft, they actually do a lot of stuff for Nintendo. Like they did the Mystery Dungeon Pokemon games.
Okay.
They have done other stuff. They do the Dragon Ball games, some of the Dragon Ball games.
So there's no way they're going to take any of that stuff. They're not going to stop these companies from putting games out on Switch. Like they're not going to. Like Sony would.
No, because a lot of these make
their contracts too.
Yeah. They made the Danganronpa games. What else do they have? They make anime games, obviously. Fire Pro Wrestling, so some random sports wrestling entertainment games.
That'll get nominated for Sports Game of the Year.
Yep, it probably would. And then also Spike Churnsoft does publish for a lot of other companies in Japan. So The Witcher was published by Spike Churnsoft in Japan. Hotline Miami was, Saints Row 4. So they have partnerships to publish stuff.
And that's probably them doing some of the language changes too, right?
Potentially, depending on like what sort of deal that they had. So that's cash flow that PlayStation currently doesn't have. That would be just bonus.
I mean, we've seen PlayStation, we've seen Sony buy studios to help, to help bridge the gap between to PC. Like we saw a couple studios purposely bought for their PC knowledge, and we're kind of seeing the fruits of those labors as they're bringing these God of Wars and Uncharted games and stuff over to PC. And it has to be these PC based studios. Yeah.
Acquire just some of the games. They co-developed the Octopath Traveler games with Square Enix.
Wow.
They did the No Heroes Allowed games. Akiba
really well on Wii.
Yeah, they made Rain with Japan Studio back in the PS3 days. They have made a lot of different things. No Heroes Allowed, which was the PSP game. They do the Way of the Samurai game. So there's like a ton of stuff that like are in the catalog of these three studios. And then also FromSoftware publishes games for other companies too in other markets. So there's a lot of money that could be made from just those three studios. And if you're Sony, those three studios are looked at as kind of a bonus because you're really trying to do this probably to just monopolize the anime market. So this could be a huge thing that might not show big on the immediate side, but if you're PlayStation, Sony, this is a company that immediately has cash flow, and it's not like a Bungie thing or some of the other studios they acquired where it's like, cool, we bought them. It's going to be 6 years before they produce something.
Right.
Like this is almost turnkey of an acquisition, which is why it's actually potentially real, which is why they're talking about offer letters being sent. Because again, I don't think you send an offer letter without a serious discussion happening beforehand. So the report said that the deal was pretty much imminent. So unless something happens that interferes with it, like this sounds like this could be happening. And if you're Microsoft, you're probably watching this being like, fuck, we are never going to get in the Japanese market, even though they've been trying for years.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Which I still don't quite understand, Dave. Not the sidetrack, because I'm sidetracking always. Xbox has always acted like they need the Japanese market, but when you look at the total sales numbers in Japan, but like the numbers that they're chasing, the PlayStation numbers and Nintendo's numbers, they aren't even that gigantic that it almost seems like a vanity project for Phil Spencer of just like, we need to get the Japanese market.
Why? Because I want it.
Yeah, no, that's how it feels. Of just like, hey, those are the creators of the original video game consoles, and the big ones.
Or it's the board saying, okay, look, there's no growth. Like, where's the lowest spot? Okay, attack that. Like the easiest way to find growth is to find the lowest the lowest plateau. Like, no. They're like, oh, there's potential there because our numbers are 0 and it could be 10 million, and it's just like that's a big number increase. It just always seems weird that like you always hear about reports of like they want to attack the Japanese market. Isn't it like 100 Switch and 100 Switch and PlayStations to like 5 Xboxes, something like that. It's
sometimes
ridiculous.
5 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1 scenarios. And there's weekly
It's like
charts
you work
can
at a
pull
video
up.
game store and somebody comes in and asks for an Xbox in Japan. You're like, yeah, okay, buddy.
That's kind of what it sounds like. But yeah, we'll see where this goes. This almost sounds like a done deal. Let's see if Geoff Keighley's just like, don't do it because I want trailers from Software
Yeah.
games at the Game Awards. Or maybe, hey, maybe this is how we get the Bloodborne announcement at the Game Awards, is being like, hey, we did it. We acquired them. We didn't have to, but we're going to pretend we had to get people on our side.
Then we find out the head of Elden Ring finds out after watching the VGAs that he's heading up the project for Bloodborne Remastered. That's where he finds out about it. As Michael mentioned, as we're getting close to the holiday season, obviously video games are news and dates and stuff are slowing down, which also means stuff is slowing down that could potentially be delayed. So nothing has been delayed. What we're planning on watching, mine will be a little short. I think I mentioned this on last week's show, but if I didn't, I am changing locations at work. I am closer to home. I got promoted. There's some opportunities where I'm working. So that's taking a little bit more of my mental energy. But I still am, I'm diligently going to try to spend some time on the holidays. I'm going away this weekend to Indianapolis. I have a buddy that I play video games with, Willie. He's done some Destiny stuff with me on this channel, on our show. But he is a season ticket holder to the Indianapolis Colts. And he is graciously offered me his second seat against the Lions. I can go there and watch the Lions kick the Colts' butt. So that's what I will be doing this weekend, as well as Angela and I are going to go see, I believe, Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and then as we go right into Thanksgiving, that's what's been going on. Watching recently, playing, I've been messing with Destiny a little bit more. There's another part 2 of their season. And then college football, still doing some of my dynasty stuff, having a decent time with that. I'm actually really enjoying recruiting in that, partially because I'm really good at it. But hopefully to see the fruits of those labors in the next 2-3 years, in the video game form. And then I did watch. I thought it was ending, so that's why I ended up watching it pretty much in one day, and I didn't realize there was a third part. So Netflix is doing like part 1, part 2, and part 3 stuff now. So I watched Cobra Kai part 2, season 6. Thinking it was going to end, and to come to find out at the end of what I thought was the last episode, because you always get that feeling like, are they going to be able to wrap this up in 40 minutes? And then sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And I was like, they can't really leave any kind of cliffhanger if they've said that this is the last season. They've come out and said that this is the end of it. So then I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, I think it said like to be continued. I'm like, how? So then I Google it, and there's a part 3 in February. I'm like, damn it, I would not have powered through this in one day.
Yeah. You knew more was coming.
Yeah, I would have paced it a little bit more. But completely over the top. Some more interesting connections to the original Karate Kid movies. Like they kind of went away from that in season 3, 4, and 5, I feel like, a little bit, and there's a little bit more connections again in this season 6.
Is Mr. Miyagi back?
No. Kind of.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. So
Hologram.
No, not a hologram, but just other stuff.
Hilary Swank, is she back?
I think she's shown, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm terrible with names, so you know that. But
from the third Karate Kid movie, the girl.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
She makes an appearance in the series somewhere.
Okay. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, Three Ninjas, when that gets
yeah. So what is it? What else was the other thing that they were talking about remaking that I'm drawing a blank on it. There was something that they were saying that they were going to redo. Oh, Friday Night Lights. Did you hear about that? You didn't watch. You probably didn't watch that show either. But
no, I know it was super big.
Yeah, so now they're talking about doing now they're talking about doing like a remaster of that now.
I don't know why that show didn't just get rebooted every year for every 4 years. Like, it was made to be rebooted. Every 4 years.
New class, new freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
It's like, but then it turns into Saved by the Bell when they're like junior high, and then 9 years later they're graduating high school, and then they're in college, and you're like, wait a minute,
hey,
you're like
it worked
30.
really well. Everybody loves Saved by the Bell, the new class.
Okay.
Or the college years.
Okay.
Everyone has fond memories of those 2 seasons.
Uh-huh.
I can't name one episode from that run. But yeah, Screech was the assistant principal at a very young age. Good for him.
So, for those of you that are listening, Michael and I have been kind of ping-ponging back and forth with this. Like, I would actually be curious, from my perspective more than maybe his, what you guys think I should play. So, particularly, I think I've asked this question before, but I'm going to tie it into like this time of year with stuff going on sale, whether it's on PSN or it's on Xbox or it's on PC, or it's physical media. I have access to all of those things now. So if there's something that comes out that's on sale that, even if it's, $10 off, I'm okay. Just tweet it at me or send it to me in Discord and I'll take a look at it. Like, I'm kind of keeping an eye out to see if Dragon Age is going to go on sale. I don't think it is. I think I would have already seen if it was. That Indiana Jones game is supposed to be coming in December. That's not getting very good reviews, previews, whatever you want to call it. So
they're being very safe with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem.
Yeah. So I'm kind of in this weird dynamic. I don't want to keep playing like Destiny and college football. And, but I'm really curious to see if I think Dragon's Age could potentially do that, but then at the same time I'm torn between like what platform I want to buy it on, and some of it is like I'm just like picking up Destiny or picking up college football right now after stretching my mind as much as I have to at work. It's just that easy disconnect, as well as just watching random crime dramas or whatever on CBS. Like, it's just that's how I just disconnect from reality for a little bit, and then it's even to the point where I have to fall asleep watching football. Even in Lions games, like when they're up 52-6, I fall asleep. Sorry.
That's also boring.
Yeah, it is. And then the first 40 points are entertaining. The last 12 get a little. I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of.
Did you knock out halftime? Because halftime this is just long enough that I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with playing and watching stuff. So I would empower you guys to send me some recommendations, to tag me in Discord, send me a Discord message, tweet at me, any of those things as you come across things, because you guys spend a lot more time paying attention to those things than I do. There was talk in our Discord again about Portal, the PS Portal, and all the stuff that it's been updating, and I'm like, okay, I couldn't get that damn thing to work for me. Like, yeah. I was just not happy with it, and there's like 4, 5, or 6 people in our Discord that are singing the praises, and I'm like, the hell am I doing wrong?
A lot, Dave.
Yeah, I'm sure. So,
yeah, for me, we have bought an LG OLED TV in his house.
See, I'm trying to convince Ansel to buy another TV.
Dave, holy shit, get the LG C4. We got a 55-inch just because this kind of worked for the space we had. First time owning an OLED. I've used them at like gaming events and stuff like that, so I wanted an OLED for so damn long.
Hold up before you go any farther, because she may or may not be listening, but she will be editing. So I could end this conversation with this very quickly. Like, what's the price tag on this television?
The 55-inch right now, it was on sale for $1,100.
Okay. That may end the conversation. She might be like, yeah, I don't care.
Okay. So the tier below that, the B series, is on sale.
Like, as much as what I want, she's like...
Yeah. That's on sale for like $600, $700 right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I got the C4 model, which is this year's model. It's like the mid-tier of the OLEDs in the LG line. This thing was amazing. Like, this thing does so much with the picture, and I like kind of lost my shit when I plugged the Xbox and PlayStation in it, and both consoles were like, yeah, we're running 120 frames now, and I was like, fuck, this is amazing. Game mode is pretty good. I'm coming from an LED TV, so the reviews
you and I have
were
the
like,
same TV.
We have the same TV,
the TCL. Yeah.
So the picture like blew my mind. It actually took a while for my eyes to get used to it. I was watching the Bulls game, and they're playing Detroit, and Detroit had their city jerseys on, so the court was different.
Yep.
So there was like the paint on the court,
very, very bright.
Like no. So it was for their city jersey. They have
gray.
It's black actually.
Yeah.
The
okay.
paint.
Yeah.
And it on the LED, the OLED. It looked like they were falling into a void. It was so damn dark, and I was just like, this is amazing. And then when I went to play game mode, a lot of the reviews were like, hey, when you go into game mode, the brightness on the screen is gonna like lower significantly. But because I'm coming from an LED screen, this thing's still bright as fuck in game mode. I am not complaining about this. Most of the reviews complained about it because they went from one OLED to another OLED.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm coming from an LED, my mind was just blown. Playing Call of Duty Black Ops is I was going to play other games, but playing at 120 frames per second, and this has just been super smooth. And also I realized this is the first time in a long time that I'm not living in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So actually using my soundbar to its full potential has been really damn great.
So I'm genuinely curious, did your eyes hurt? How long did it take for you to get used to 120 frames?
I think what hurt more the first day, it was just getting used to the brightness.
Are you wiping your eyes?
Just a little bit, especially when the scenes would go from a very dark scene to a super bright scene. It definitely took my eyes a little bit. Sarah is the one who bought it. It was a birthday gift. So I very much appreciate this birthday gift. She was the one who was just okay, just buy the TV that you want to buy. And she wasn't expecting there to be that much of a difference. She was like, how much better can it actually be? So I loaded up Final Fantasy and Dragon Age for her. And she at a certain point was just so I know I was going to take the old TV, but I kind of want an OLED for myself now. Because we're going to put the old TV, or we put the old TV in what is her office space. Yeah. And now she's just I kind of want an OLED.
You're going to end up with an office space / guest room too. You're going to be kind of that kind of guy.
Yeah, basically. But it was one of those things where when she's not really super big into tech or TV screen, stuff like that, she thought it all looked the same. But seeing an OLED, she was like, this looks like a different video game.
Well, yeah, especially after she just put probably 20 or 25 hours into Dragon Age, so she knows what it looks like.
Yeah. Especially she was looking at her Final Fantasy character, and they've been doing graphic updates this entire year to Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
And the updates didn't look like a big deal on our old TV, but seeing them on this TV, she was
I'm assuming this is
God.
HDMI 2.1 and all that
stuff,
right?
Yeah. It's HDR, it's Dolby Vision.
Yeah.
HDR.
Full, obviously 120 frames, but full, so 120 hertz also then, right? Or 150 hertz?
Yeah, and it can go up though, if you hook a PC up to it, it does 144 hertz.
Wow.
It's this TV's doing wonders for the gaming section. So I can't recommend this TV enough if you're... It's one of those things where we were looking to upgrade our TV, and it was just we might as well just spend the extra money and just get something that hopefully we're going to have for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to playing a bunch of different games this weekend. I got to do the last 2 Astrobot speed challenges that came out. But yeah, I literally downloaded Spider-Man because I'm even though I don't plan to finish Spider-Man, I'm I need to swing around the city with this. So yeah, I'm probably going to just play a bunch of random games just to kind of look at them a little bit. I loaded up God of War Ragnarok because it was still on my M.2 on my PlayStation, and I was just yeah, this shit looks amazing. I might actually finish this game now. But yeah, right now I'm just in a phase of just I just want to test the games and see how pretty they are, and then I move on to the next game. Doesn't do much for the Switch though. The Switch still looks like Switch games. But yeah, the Xbox and PlayStation run like a champ with this thing.
Nice.
But yeah, I really hope now Nintendo put some power behind their stuff because I want some.
Yeah, there's always games. We were talking about that before though. Just put the power in the dock mode when you put it in the dock. Like even my ROG Ally when I plug it in, I have a better power source. And that power source allows the turbo and the max running ability, and then you unplug it and you lose that turbo ability. It just can't and that's okay. When I'm holding it in my hand, I'm fine with that. When I'm putting it on a 50-inch TV, I want a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, I definitely need to run a first party Nintendo game just to see the those colors pop. I gotta play Splatoon or something to see
all the games you could have listed, you list Splatoon. Go get Mario Kart.
No, but Mario Kart kind of runs like shit. Splatoon runs well, and it also has a lot of bright colors that are thrown on the screen. So yeah, I need to mess around with
Come on, man, 4-player flip screen on a 55-inch. Just go.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure it's great. But yeah, and the input lag is really low on it, so it's significantly lower than what the my TCL TV was, and my TCL TV had very low input lag, which is why I bought it.
Yeah.
So having it be even lower has been nice. We're gonna probably do a Rock Band session this week just to see how it goes, because I have the full Rock Band kit. I can use the drums finally again, which is nice.
Space.
I have so much space behind me that you can't see fully on this video. But yeah, just a lot of testing and tinkering with different games right now. Haven't really watched too much. I've been watching the Bulls when they play and disappoint me. Still watching Community. I'm at the point where like the show sucks, and I gotta like grit my teeth through like a horrible season before it gets good again. So yeah, just been a lot of that stuff in between. Getting my floor replaced in my new house. That started today. So yeah, my whole living room is the floor is all torn up because we had to get rid of carpet. And
why didn't you do that before you moved in?
So we hadn't we specifically did not like drop anything off in that whole front room.
Okay.
So we didn't have to move any furniture too much outside of a couple boxes and stuff like that. We've basically just been living around the living room.
Okay.
Because we knew we were going to do this soon. It just happened sooner than we expected. Because the person that's working on it had a job canceled, and they're like, "We can come tomorrow." And it's just like, "Shit, okay,
take it.
We're ready." Yeah. So this weekend, like the floor stuff should be done tomorrow. So then we're gonna finally set up our living room, and that means we'll be pretty much good for the rest of the year.
Awesome.
There's going to be some home improvement projects that I'm going to have to start once winter is over. But there's like little things that I don't know about a house. Like we have you got
to take care of the yard. You got to cut the grass, and you got to edge and take care of the leaves. And
I went to go rake, and then I'm like, shit, I don't have a rake.
I know somewhere that sells rakes.
There's one not too far from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just I like right now I'm looking at like this we have like a AC unit thing in the backyard, and I'm just looking at it just like, does that need to be covered? I don't fucking know.
You could put a piece of plywood on top of it for the winter. It wouldn't hurt. Just get a square piece of plywood and put it on there, put a rock on it.
On the vent. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Because I Googled it, and they're like, they're made to last in all weathers. And I'm like, but
it doesn't hurt to, eventually to take a pressure washer to it every once in a while too. Like
I figured that was definitely a thing, but I'm just like, Chicago winter. How is this going to work?
Yes, but it does. Like you don't have to do anything crazy, but you can just literally go to like Home Depot or Lowe's and get I don't even know what yours would be, like a 3x3 square piece of plywood, and take a boulder or a rock and put it on top of it and walk away from it.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that and I'm just like, I don't even know if you're used or you work. Like, but I need
the house
to
inspector tested it, hopefully.
Yeah, they tested it, but it's not like it's being actively used right now. It's fucking cold.
It's just one of those things, man. You just eventually have faith. You turn the thermostat down to like 71 on that 90-degree day, and you're like, and you hear something like go, you're like, what the hell is that? You're like, oh, that's the air conditioner, and then cold air starts coming out of the vents. You're like, okay.
Yeah. If I told you how the AC heating worked in my house, you'd be like, what the fuck? There's like 2 or 3 different systems in this house, and it's baffling. Right. But yeah, that's home ownership. I'm hoping I can relax not this weekend, because we're going to be setting up a living room, but next weekend. I'm hoping I don't have to do any home improvement stuff. But yeah, that's been my life. So yeah, you take it away, Dave.
All right, that's our show for this week. More than likely, unless something ridiculous happens in the next 6 days, we probably will not record the week of Thanksgiving. It's hard. I still work retail. It's still a little bit different retail, but I still work retail. And I'm also going into a new building, like I just mentioned. So there's a lot of things. But I can make time if something comes out that's newsworthy. I don't think it will. So I understand that we've only been back like 3 weeks and we just missed a month. So I'm sorry, but my wife's going out of town for Thanksgiving, and my son is going out of town. They're going down to Kentucky.
I was gonna say your Thanksgiving's probably a little different this year. So.
This year, just this year, might be different later. But yeah, I will be solo on Thanksgiving. Don't worry, I've got my sister and I've got my wife's side of the family, so I will be taken care of on Thursday. But I'm also
there's an NFL game. For
I am
you,
also fully content with sitting at home watching football all day. So, but I
Do
won't.
the Lions have a game this year or no?
They do, yeah. So
you're fucking good. Then.
Yep. So, but it just means that recording the podcast would be a little bit of a challenge if there's not. But if there's news that's worth talking about, like if this whole FromSoftware deal goes through and there's a bunch of like contract stuff, like maybe we'll record something just to focus on that. I don't think this is well. It is a Japanese company, buying a Japanese company, so they don't really care about Thanksgiving. But still, so like we'll see. But more than likely, it's about a 90% chance that we won't have an episode. So we'll come back in like 2 weeks, and then we'll kind of start our end of the year stuff, like we always do, and then we'll start our look ahead stuff. So it's kind of hard to believe that we're already kind of at that point, but it will be December after Thanksgiving's very late this year, and then the next week is December. So that's tentatively the plan right now for the pretty much from now until New Year's, Martin Luther King Day almost. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Typically, the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's, we take off because you guys aren't really downloading stuff, and it gives you guys a chance to play catch up while you're traveling and stuff like that. And again, the video game industry essentially shuts down from like December 16th until like January 16th. And
we want to shut down physically because we're tired.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like what's going on. So you can always follow us at Digital Days Pod for updates. You can follow Michael at the First MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server. Discord server is going to be Discord server and Twitter are the two main places where you're going to see communication about what is or isn't going on with the podcast. I try to remember to go into the Facebook group, but I don't always. So a lot of times it'll be Discord and it'll be Facebook. I'm sorry.
Get on my Facebook account.
Discord and Twitter /X for now. I don't know. Do we need to make one of those Bitsby's or what is that other?
Blue Sky?
Yeah.
I'm looking into making a Blue Sky just because I might leave Twitter soon too.
Yeah. So
it's starting to become a ghost town with everyone going to Blue Sky.
Right. So, but yeah, you can definitely, if we add any of that stuff, it'll be in our show notes, and the Patreon is there as well, so you can check that out. And with all that being said, I hope everybody that celebrates next week's Thanksgiving has a great time with their family, and you guys have an awesome holiday, and have a great week or a couple weeks, and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.